I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. I'm pleased to have as a guest for this program my friend, leader and elder in community, Alfred Babbington Johnson. Brother Babbington, as we call you, how you doing? Thank you for being here.
I'm doing nicely, Al, and I consider it always a pleasure and an honor to be with you.
Well, just to talk to you is always enlightening for me. I think what you have to say, both from your experience but also the quality of analysis and presentation are always of benefit to me personally, and I think to the community as well. Let me begin by saying this edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane is brought to you by Comcast, which is working to bridge the digital divide through Internet Essentials and partnering with organizations across Twin Cities to help make our region an even better place to live. So we thank Comcast Internet Essentials for their support. Your work as a community builder is critical. For the past generation, you and I have worked together talking about sort of crying from the mountaintop that freedom is at hand, liberty is at hand, redemption is at hand.
It's in our hands.
It's in our hands, right? And so talk about the Stairstep mission, the Stairstep vision, Stairstep initiative, the movement, first of all. And then we'll go into other things that you've done specifically.
Well, let me begin by saying how much I appreciate our decades-long collaboration and partnership built around the fact that we both believe the importance of community. That is the issue of our times. The breakdown of community has resulted for African Americans in all manner of horrible outcomes that are called disparities, whether you talk about economics or health or whatever it might be. And so our intention, and again, early on, you joined me because you were already in the fray yourself in the early 1990s, matter of fact, 1991 and 2, in the development of the Stairstep initiative, in which we say we want to understand what are the components, what are the processes, what are the dynamics that are required to rekindle and energize the spirit of community among African American people. Let me say this, Al. I recognize that ultimately we need a revitalized community in the world of all people. Our focus on African Americans and those of African descent is because that's where the disparities sit and have the most devastating impact. So we've got to treat home first, then charity spreads abroad.
And that's where we are, and that's who we are. And in a sense, I would say, Jerry Rawlings said in one of our visits of Ghana, in one of our visits, I think that that's our unique assignment as Africans in the West.
Come on now.
We've got an assignment, and the assignment is to move towards and advance this question of the liberation of human beings.
Amen.
You know, but you start from within.
Well, I think Jerry Rawlings and Mahmoud El-Kati hung out in some of the same places, drinking the same water.
And so Stairstep did that with intentionality. When you caught the vision, what did you see? What was in your mind's eye?
Martin Luther King calls it the beloved community. I do believe that it is an assignment of God and a concern of God. My own theology says, first of all, he wants us to trust him. That's his top priority. The second is he wants us to be in love with one another. He wants us to recognize our connectivity and the fact that if we rise, we rise. And so what I see is a new consciousness, a new awareness, and recognizing too, Al, that we are fighting against forces that don't want connectivity, that don't want rise, you know, that get to be very insular and cancerous. So we have to intentionally, and I think that's a word that we both love, intentionally, get about the business of connecting and get about the business of rising together.
You work with churches, you work with businesses, you work with youth, with education, with health. Sort of go over some of the initiatives in the Stairstep initiative.
Well, first and foremost, we're not an agency, we are an initiative, and our goal is community and community building. And so after 20, almost 30 years being after that, we have learned some things, and we have 7 kind of parading philosophical principles that guide us forward. First is you got to know what the values are that you're fighting for. What are the historic values important for African Americans, currently relevant, ought to be pressed in the future. But one of the central themes for us too is the development and the reinforcement of our institutions. The point here being, we're sort of trapped in this space where everybody wants to be the Lone Ranger and feel like it's okay if it's just me and mine. That's destructive on its face, and strategies that are just individually centered are not going to get us where we need to be. So one of our sense of things is that if we can get the institutions of our community engaged, they can, to use a metaphor, become a circulatory system with nodes or a highway system with stops, and that we can use to carry strategies that move our community forward. We think that the key institution that has the greatest potential in this regard is the African American church. It has historical credibility. It's the bridge that brought us over. It is ubiquitous. Everywhere you look, there's one, you know. And the potential of it, if you even look at things like cash flow or access to communications, your specialty, the church has all those possibilities. Can we engage it? And can we build capacity for the church to operate in this role as well? That's one of the central things we are doing.
You focus on health as well. You've moved to the discussion about the health of our community to equating that or describing it as a function of the Spirit.
Okay. So let me say this, though. Our goal is community building. We find targets of strategic opportunity all across the landscape because they're issues that negatively impact us. So our notion, Al, is if we see an issue that's critical to us, if we can find a way to mobilize a strategy and an effective impact using the institutions of the community, then we've got a double bottom line benefit, if you will. The issue has been dealt with or is being dealt with, but the community is being strengthened. So a lot of times people mistake the Stairstep for being about economic development or health disparities or youth or whatever, when in point of fact, we may take on these issues individually, but our point is always to do it in such a way that we strengthen the fabric of the community so we've got capacity afterwards to deal with any number of other issues.
So you talked about economic development. One of the major forays was the development of entrepreneurship and businesses. And you've moved the discussion and the expectation of our community, of individuals and the community forward, I believe. What have been your successes in that arena?
The success is, I'll kind of zero in on Cieza, which was a manufacturing plant we put together with collaboration of General Mills and Glory Foods out of Columbus, Ohio. That manufacturing plant that we built and that we produced in, over a period of a little over 10 years, had $12 million in payroll and 400 individuals who had jobs that came out of that. But more important than that was the fact that we got black folk to invest. We got black folks to believe that we could together. We could manage, we could move forward. It was a creation of a model. And the model was celebrated as it ought be, and, you know, with an award in the Oval Office for Bill Williams and General Mills and for Stairstep. But the point is, in collaboration, we have strength. In collaboration, we can advance, whatever the arena is. Economics, health, education, whatever it might be. We've got to understand the lesson and the message underneath. The experience, the enterprise, the example is fine, but do you get the message? Working together, we can do anything.
In education, you focused on belief bowl.
Yes.
How do we get our kids to see ourselves differently?
Yes.
Or see ourselves truly?
Yes. You know, I got to take my hat all the way off to Eric Mahmoud, who wrote a book, I believe, called Best in Class. In it, he looked at the educational challenge that we're facing, and he defined it. You know what, Al? This is something you've known and operate in forever as I've known you. If you can define a problem, you had a lot better chance of impacting and solving it. Well, that's what Eric did in his book. He talked about not just a gap in educational achievement, but gaps, 5 gaps, preparation. But the key gap he came to was belief. The question is, what do the children believe about themselves? What messages have we forced on them that end up creating the reality that they operate in? And if the belief is that you just got this limited capacity, God bless you, then we get bad outcomes. But he talks about the growth mindset. Bring the muscle. The more you use it, stronger it gets. Oh my goodness, is that the deal? Well, then how do we share that with others? And how do we actually demonstrate that in practical ways? And we did the Belief Bowl using the churches to try to advance that notion.
A lot of great things. Let's talk about then this, what it's all about. So it's not about the particular exercise or project, but it's about changing the mind of our community. I call it creating a public mind, revealing the public mind, a mind and awareness that sort of lets us know who we have been, who we are, and who we can become.
And who we can be.
Who we can become. And it celebrates what we've been in an environment that denigrates what we've been. The denigration is untrue.
Yes.
You know, it's, we've been flooded by falsehoods, and the falsehoods intend to diminish our spirit, our impact, and our potential.
Absolutely.
But I think we're greater than that. We know it, and our job is to tell it, and to tell it to the world.
And see, thank God for McFarlane Media, and how seriously you take the issue of the story, the narrative. If we accept the narrative that is foisted upon us by others, we are in a very small, dark, difficult place. But if we start with the truth of our history, and then if we look inside at our own potential, and if we look across and see our brothers and our sisters and start to see the possibilities that exist, then we reject the narrow, dark, difficult narrative, and we reject the notion of simply reacting to what somebody else wants to say or do about us, and we become in an aspirational place, in a proactive place, where we're saying, hey, you know what? I've got a dream, and I'm going for it.
And I've got a solution for humanity.
Hello.
Yeah, I've got an answer for existence, right?
Amen.
And if we see ourselves connected to the eternal reflected in us, it gives us a different power, a different perspective,
preacher.
More confidence. Well, listen, you know, this is what I think our generation has come to and come from. And we're not new in this. We're standing on the shoulders of people before us who have decided that this is a fight worth fighting.
Amen.
I think our job, Brother Babbington, yours and mine, has been to say that we are worthy to stand in the arena and to believe that we will win.
Amen.
And so we get up every day fighting and proving.
And believing.
And believing.
Yes.
And delivering, you know, and we get beat up sometimes, and it's okay.
Comes with the territory.
Comes with the territory.
Yes.
And so when I ask you to focus on vision, where do you see us going? How do you see what outcomes are in your mind? Temporal and spiritual.
Well, spiritual, more importantly for me, Al, because the temporal will reflect
The spiritual.
the truth of what is in my spirit.
That's right.
You know, and so in my spirit, I do want to honor God. I do want to recognize that I am because He is, you know, and my opportunities exist and abound because of His love and care for me and you. Okay, so I start there. Then I want to recognize the impact of my connectedness with my brothers and my sisters. You know, that's a lifting proposition. You know, the self thing is a capsulating sort of thing, you know. But the more I really recognize the power that comes, each time that I sit down with you and we get to exchange, I'm energized, I'm improved, you know. I'm ready to take something else on. So the more I realize the benefit that flows from that connectiveness, then I create that reality. I walk in that reality. That's what my vision is, Al, that more and more we'll awake to the potential, the benefit of being together.
I would say this, in addition, my take on that is our capacity to recognize the presence of the Creator in each of us.
Amen.
So when I look at you, I'm looking at the work of God.
Amen.
Right, and
Amen.
that presence, and I salute that.
Amen.
And my goal is to imitate that as well.
Amen. Amen.
So, Brother Babbington, thank you so much.
Can I say something
Yes,
real quick
yes,
about
sir.
another partner, and that is Comcast. They've really blessed us and helped us. Al, we're working with them on the project that they're doing called Internet Essentials. And it recognizes one of the dangers of this time is the fact that many people that are our brothers and sisters don't have access to the internet, don't have access to technology and what have you. And so we really do value what Comcast has done in helping us help them tell that story across our community.
Well, the key for me is to talk about them for the modeling that they are doing. We want other companies
Absolutely.
to step up because we each are stakeholders in each other's existence.
Amen.
And our value must be recognized and responded to. And to the degree that Comcast invests in our communities, our projects, we think that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
So we thank them for that.
Amen.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. My guest, Alfred Babbington Johnson, the leader, creator of the Stairstep Initiative. Alfred, thank you so much. Brother
brother.
Babbington, thank you
God
so
bless
much.
you.
All right. We'll see you next time.